The most powerful people in the room are usually the ones you don't notice at first. They're not the loudest, not the flashiest, not desperately trying to command your attention. They operate from a different frequency entirely. While others perform for applause, these individuals build empires in silence. Raise your hand if you've ever posted something and then checked back every few minutes to see how many likes it got. Keep it up. Now look around you. Most hands are raised, aren't they? This is the trap that's stealing your power. This is the addiction that's killing your potential. Every moment you spend craving attention is a moment you're not spending building the life you actually want. Your life is not a performance for others' approval, yet most of you live as if it is. You craft your words, your choices, even your dreams around what will get the best reaction from people who, frankly, aren't even paying attention to their own lives. When did we become so afraid of being ordinary that we forgot the extraordinary power of focused, quiet work? Here's a question that will cut through everything you think you know about success. When did you last do something excellent with no audience to witness it? Something that mattered, something that took effort, something that built your character, but absolutely no one would ever know you did it? If you're struggling to answer that question, you've identified exactly why your progress feels so slow, why your achievements feel so empty, why you're exhausted but not fulfilled. The paradox of attention is this: those who chase it rarely get the kind that matters, and those who avoid it often become magnetic without trying. But there's something deeper here than just strategy. There's a fundamental truth about human nature that most people never understand. Let me tell you about Marcus. 3 years ago, Marcus was the guy in every meeting who had to speak, had to be heard, had to make sure everyone knew he was the smartest person in the room. He networked aggressively, posted constantly about his wins, and measured his worth by how impressed others seemed with his accomplishments. On paper, Marcus was successful. He had the title, the salary, the LinkedIn endorsements. But privately, Marcus was miserable. The turning point came during a company retreat. Marcus had prepared an elaborate presentation, spent hours perfecting every slide, practiced his delivery until it was flawless. He was ready to shine, but 20 minutes before his presentation, the retreat facilitator announced a schedule change. Marcus's presentation was cut. His moment in the spotlight vanished. Most people would have been disappointed. Marcus was devastated. He realized in that moment that his entire sense of self-worth was tied to external validation. Without the applause, without the recognition, without the audience, he felt like nothing. That night, alone in his hotel room, Marcus made a decision that changed everything. He decided to spend the next 90 days doing important work that no one would ever see. He started waking up at 5 in the morning to read, to think, to plan. He began solving problems at work without announcing his solutions. He started helping colleagues without taking credit. He focused on becoming excellent rather than appearing excellent. The transformation was remarkable, but not in the way you might expect. Marcus didn't suddenly get promoted or win awards. In fact, his external circumstances stayed roughly the same for months. But something profound shifted internally. He started sleeping better. His anxiety disappeared. His relationships improved. He felt genuinely confident for the first time in years, not because others were impressed with him, but because he was impressed with himself. By the end of those 90 days, Marcus had become a different person. And here's the interesting part. People started noticing, not because he was trying to get their attention, but because he had developed a quiet confidence that was impossible to ignore. He spoke less, but carried more weight when he spoke. He stopped needing to prove himself, because he had proved something more important to himself. The external recognition eventually came, but by then Marcus didn't need it anymore. He had discovered something infinitely more valuable, the satisfaction of building excellence in private. He had learned that the most sustainable source of confidence comes from doing right when no one is watching. This is what personal responsibility actually looks like. Not taking credit, not making excuses, not needing applause. Personal responsibility is the decision to measure your worth by your character rather than your reputation, by your growth rather than your image, by your impact rather than your recognition. Most people avoid personal responsibility because it's uncomfortable. It means you can't blame your circumstances, your background, your boss, your lack of resources. It means that if you're not where you want to be, it's because of the choices you've made and the actions you've taken. That's a heavy truth, but it's also liberating. When you seek attention, you're actually avoiding responsibility. You're asking others to validate your worth rather than building it yourself. You're performing instead of producing. You're managing your image instead of developing your substance. And here's the trap. The more attention you seek, the less worthy you feel of receiving it. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones constantly telling you about their achievements, or are they the ones whose excellence speaks for itself? Are they the ones seeking validation, or are they the ones so secure in their own worth that they can focus entirely on serving others? The fear beneath attention seeking is always the same, not being enough. But seeking attention to solve this fear is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It makes the problem worse. The only cure for not feeling enough is to become enough, and that happens through private growth, not public performance. Every morning, you have a choice. You can wake up asking, how can I impress people today? Or you can wake up asking, how can I improve today? The first question leads to exhaustion and emptiness. The second leads to strength and fulfillment. Personal responsibility means taking ownership of your development without needing witnesses. It means solving problems without announcing your solutions. It means building skills without broadcasting your progress. It means being more interested in becoming than in seeming. But responsibility without action is just philosophy. The most responsible thing you can do right now is start working on yourself with the same intensity that you used to work on your image. Start building something real instead of something impressive. Start measuring progress by internal metrics instead of external applause. What would you do differently if no one would ever know you did it? Would you still exercise if you couldn't post about it? Would you still read if you couldn't share quotes? Would you still work on your skills if you couldn't update your resume? Your answers reveal everything about whether you're building real strength or just the appearance of strength. The liberation that comes from releasing the need for external validation is profound. When you stop performing for others, you start performing for yourself. When you stop measuring your worth by others' reactions, you start measuring it by your own growth. When you stop needing attention, you start attracting respect. How much of your mental energy goes to managing how others perceive you? If you're honest, it's probably more than you'd like to admit. That energy could be building something meaningful instead of maintaining something artificial. That focus could be developing your abilities instead of promoting your image. What percentage of your decisions are influenced by how they'll look to others? What percentage of your goals are chosen because they'll impress people rather than fulfill you? What percentage of your time is spent on activities that look productive rather than activities that actually move you forward? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary questions. Until you face the truth about how much of your life is performance rather than progress, you'll keep spinning your wheels. You'll keep feeling busy but not productive, active but not effective, visible but not valuable. The path forward isn't complicated, but it requires courage. It requires the courage to be unremarkable in public while becoming remarkable in private. It requires the courage to build slowly instead of appearing to succeed quickly. It requires the courage to measure yourself by standards that others can't see. This is where real power begins. In the quiet moments when you choose growth over glory, substance over style, character over charisma. This is where you stop being a performer and start being a creator. This is where you stop reacting to life and start designing it. The foundation of true power isn't built from applause or admiration. It's built from the daily choice to become better than you were yesterday, whether anyone notices or not. It's built from the accumulated weight of small, excellent decisions that no one sees but everyone eventually feels. Success isn't a performance, it's a practice. And the most important practicing happens when no one is watching, when no one is grading, when no one is applauding. That's where character is forged. That's where real confidence is earned. That's where true power is cultivated. The question isn't whether you have potential. You do. The question is whether you're willing to develop that potential in private before you display it in public. Whether you're willing to become before you appear to be. Whether you're willing to build the foundation before you construct the facade. Because here's what most people never realize. The internal work you do when no one is watching determines everything about what happens when everyone is watching. The habits you build in private become the strengths you display in public. The character you develop in silence becomes the confidence you carry into every room. And once you understand this principle, once you really internalize that true success is built from the inside out rather than the outside in, everything changes. Your relationship with work changes. Your relationship with others changes. Your relationship with yourself changes. You stop being motivated by what others think, and start being motivated by what you know you're capable of becoming. That internal work I just mentioned. It operates by completely different rules than the external game most people are playing. While the world measures success by money in the bank, followers on profiles, and titles on business cards, real success is built on metrics that no one else can see or steal from you. Raise your hand if you've ever felt successful on paper but empty inside. Keep them up so others can see they're not alone. This is the epidemic of our time, people winning the wrong game and wondering why victory feels hollow. They're optimizing for applause while their character deteriorates. They're building impressive resumes while their souls starve. Here's the brutal truth about external metrics. They're all borrowed power. Your net worth can disappear overnight. Your followers can abandon you in a scandal. Your title can be stripped away in a restructuring. But your wisdom, your integrity, your ability to solve problems, your capacity to love and serve others, your inner peace during chaos, these can never be taken from you because they were never given to you by someone else. Internal success is earthquake-proof, it's recession-proof, it's criticism-proof. When you measure yourself by how much you've grown rather than how much you've gained, when you evaluate progress by character development rather than account balances, when you define achievement by who you're becoming rather than what you're accumulating, you become virtually unstoppable. But here's what's fascinating. When you stop chasing external success and focus entirely on internal development, the external success often comes anyway. Not because you're trying to attract it, but because you've become the type of person who naturally creates value. You've built the foundation that can actually support lasting achievement. Think of success like building a house. Most people start with the roof, the flashy, visible parts that impress neighbors. They focus on the exterior design, the curb appeal, the things that photograph well. But what happens when you build a beautiful roof with no foundation? The first storm destroys everything. Real builders start underground, where no one can see. They spend months on foundation work that looks like nothing is happening. Visitors to the construction site see holes in the ground and wonder if any progress is being made. But the builder knows that everything visible later depends entirely on what's invisible now. Your character is your foundation. Your daily habits are your framework. Your private disciplines are your electrical and plumbing systems. These aren't glamorous, but they determine whether your success can actually support itself or whether it collapses the moment pressure arrives. How many hours per week do you spend on foundation work versus facade work? Foundation work is reading, thinking, planning, exercising, meditating, learning new skills, having difficult conversations, keeping promises to yourself. Facade work is posting, networking for image rather than value, attending events to be seen rather than to contribute, talking about what you're going to do rather than doing it. Most people spend 80% of their energy on facade work and wonder why their success feels unstable. They're trying to build skyscrapers on sand. They've confused motion with progress, activity with productivity, visibility with value. Let me tell you about farming, because farming teaches you everything you need to know about building real success. A farmer plants seeds in spring knowing that he won't see the harvest until fall. He doesn't plant corn on Monday and check Tuesday morning to see if it's growing. He understands that growth happens underground, in the dark, slowly, according to natural laws that can't be rushed or manipulated. The farmer prepares his soil before he plants anything. He knows that the best seeds in the world will fail in unprepared ground. He fertilizes, he tills, he removes rocks and weeds. This work is invisible and tedious, but it determines everything about the harvest. Your mind is your soil. Are you preparing it daily with good books, constructive thoughts, meaningful conversations? Are you removing the weeds of negativity, comparison, and self-doubt? Are you fertilizing it with new ideas, fresh perspectives, challenging problems to solve? Or are you just throwing seeds of ambition into unprepared ground and wondering why nothing grows? The farmer also understands seasons. He knows there's a time to plant, a time to tend, a time to harvest, and a time to rest. He doesn't try to harvest in winter or plant in fall. He works with natural rhythms rather than against them. Your life has seasons too. Sometimes you're in a planting season, starting new projects, learning new skills, building new relationships. Sometimes you're in a growing season, nurturing what you've started, being patient with progress, trusting the process. Sometimes you're in a harvest season, reaping rewards, celebrating achievements, enjoying the fruits of your labor. And sometimes you're in a rest season, reflecting, planning, preparing for the next cycle. Most people trying to build success are always in harvest mode. They want to reap rewards from work they haven't done, from seeds they haven't planted, from soil they haven't prepared. They see others succeeding and think they can skip the foundation work. But you can't harvest what you haven't planted, and you can't plant what won't grow in unprepared soil. The most successful people you know spent years in planting and growing seasons before their first harvest. They developed expertise when no one was watching. They solved problems when no one was grading. They built relationships when no one was counting. They created value when no one was applauding. But here's the part that separates amateurs from professionals. They never stopped planting. Even during harvest season, they continued preparing soil and planting new seeds. They understood that sustainable success requires continuous cultivation, not just one-time achievement. What are you planting today that won't be ready to harvest for 5 years? What skills are you developing that will compound over decades? What relationships are you building based on giving rather than getting? What habits are you establishing that will still be serving you when everything else has changed? These questions reveal whether you're thinking like a farmer or like a gambler. Farmers understand that small, consistent actions compound into extraordinary results over time. Gamblers look for big, quick wins that usually lead to bigger losses. The mathematics of compound growth is stunning when you understand it. If you improve just 1% every day for a year, you don't improve 37%. You improve 37 times. You become 3,778% better than when you started. But here's the catch. For the first few months, the progress is barely noticeable. Most people quit before the compound effect kicks in. This is why your morning routine matters more than your evening celebrations. This is why reading 30 minutes daily matters more than attending 3 conferences per year. This is why consistent small improvements matter more than occasional dramatic gestures. This is why what you do when no one is watching matters more than what you do when everyone is looking. The invisible work creates the visible results. The private disciplines create the public victories. The character development creates the capacity for greater responsibility. The internal growth creates the external opportunities. But you have to trust the process when you can't see the progress. You have to keep planting when the harvest seems far away. You have to keep building the foundation when others are showing off their facades. You have to measure yourself by effort rather than outcomes, by growth rather than recognition, by who you're becoming rather than what you're accumulating. This requires a different kind of courage. It requires the courage to be patient in an instant gratification world. It requires the courage to work on yourself while others work on their image. It requires the courage to build slowly while others appear to succeed quickly. Show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. Show me your bookshelf and I'll show you your trajectory. Show me your morning routine and I'll show you your character. Show me what you do when no one is watching and I'll show you who you really are. The architecture of success is invisible to casual observers, but obvious to those who understand construction. Every morning when you wake up, you're either strengthening this architecture or weakening it. Every choice either builds your foundation or erodes it. Every habit either serves your future self or betrays it. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching, but it's also doing the important thing when no one is grading. It's reading the book that will make you better instead of scrolling through content that makes you feel better. It's having the difficult conversation instead of avoiding conflict. It's keeping the promise you made to yourself even when breaking it would be easier. Every time you choose the important over the urgent, the difficult over the easy, the valuable over the entertaining, you're making deposits in an account that compounds over time. Every time you choose comfort over growth, immediate gratification over long-term benefit, appearance over substance, you're making withdrawals from your future. The question isn't whether you have time for this foundation work. You're going to spend the time either way. You'll either spend it now building something solid, or you'll spend it later rebuilding from rubble. You'll either invest time in developing yourself, or you'll waste time explaining why you haven't developed. Character is built the same way muscle is built, through progressive resistance training. You start with lighter weights and gradually increase the load. You don't try to bench press 300 pounds on your first day in the gym, but you also don't stay at the same weight forever. You progressively challenge yourself with harder choices, bigger responsibilities, more difficult problems to solve. Most people never progress beyond character lightweight training. They avoid difficult situations, hard conversations, challenging responsibilities. They wonder why they feel weak when tested. They've never built the strength to handle significant pressure because they've never voluntarily subjected themselves to manageable pressure. The strongest people you know didn't become strong by accident. They actively sought out resistance. They volunteered for difficult assignments. They had conversations others avoided. They took responsibility when others made excuses. They built their character capacity gradually but consistently. This is how you become anti-fragile, not just resistant to pressure but strengthened by it. When others see obstacles, you see opportunity for growth. When others see problems, you see chances to build problem-solving muscle. When others see challenges, you see character-building exercises. But this only works if you're building in private first. You can't fake this kind of strength. You can't pretend your way to genuine confidence. You can't perform your way to real competence. The foundation work must be real, consistent, and often invisible to others. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it makes you magnetic without trying to be. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, confident in their abilities, clear about their values. They can sense when someone has done the work versus when someone is just performing having done the work. When you've built real strength, you don't need to flex constantly to prove it. When you've developed genuine wisdom, you don't need to speak constantly to share it. When you've cultivated true confidence, you don't need validation constantly to maintain it. This foundation you're building will determine everything else. It will determine how you handle success when it comes. It will determine how you respond to failure when it arrives. It will determine the quality of your relationships, the sustainability of your achievements, and the legacy you leave behind. But foundations aren't built once and forgotten. They require maintenance, reinforcement, and sometimes renovation. What worked at one level of success might not work at the next level. The habits that got you here might not get you there. The character that supported your current responsibilities might need strengthening to support your future opportunities. This is why the most successful people never stop working on themselves. They never graduate from personal development. They never outgrow the need for foundation work. They understand that external success without internal development is a recipe for eventual collapse, but internal development without external application is a waste of potential. That continuous development I just described becomes infinitely easier when you understand something most people never learn. Life operates in predictable patterns. Just like farmers work with seasonal rhythms rather than against them, successful people work with life's natural cycles instead of fighting them. Who here has noticed that challenges seem to come in waves? Raise your hands. Keep them up. Now, who has noticed that opportunities also seem to cluster together? Look around. Almost everyone recognizes these patterns when they stop to think about it, but most people react emotionally to each wave instead of preparing strategically for the cycles. The people who build lasting success understand that life moves in seasons, and each season requires different responses, different strategies, different mindsets. When you can recognize which season you're in and adjust accordingly, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being an architect of outcomes. Winter seasons in life are times of difficulty, scarcity, or apparent stagnation. Your business struggles, your relationships face challenges, your progress seems stalled. Most people panic during winter seasons. They make desperate decisions, abandon their principles, or give up entirely. But winter serves a purpose. It tests what you've built. It reveals what's solid and what's superficial. It forces you to rely on the foundation work you've done when external support disappears. Smart people use winter seasons to strengthen their roots. They read more, think more, plan more. They use the slower pace to prepare for spring. They don't waste energy complaining about the cold. They use the time to sharpen their tools for when opportunities return. Spring seasons are times of new beginnings, fresh opportunities, emerging possibilities. This is when your preparation meets opportunity. But here's what most people miss. Spring requires massive action, not cautious optimism. You must plant when the conditions are right, not when you feel ready. Many people recognize spring arriving, but hesitate too long and miss the planting window. Summer seasons are times of growth, abundance, and accelerated progress. Everything you planted is growing rapidly. This is when most people make their biggest mistake. They assume summer will last forever. They overspend, overcommit, and underestimate how quickly conditions can change. Wise people use summer abundance to prepare for the inevitable winter. They save energy, resources, and opportunities for leaner times. Fall seasons are harvest times, when the work you've done for months or years finally pays visible dividends. This is when you reap rewards, celebrate achievements, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. But fall is also preparation time for the next cycle. The most successful people spend fall seasons evaluating what worked, what didn't, and how to plant better seeds next time. Which season are you in right now? More importantly, are you responding to that season appropriately, or are you trying to force the wrong behaviors at the wrong time? Are you trying to harvest when you should be planting? Are you conserving energy when you should be taking massive action? Are you panicking during a natural winter when you should be strengthening your foundation? Understanding these cycles gives you tremendous power because you stop taking temporary situations personally. When winter arrives, you don't think you're a failure. You know it's time to prepare for spring. When opportunities emerge, you don't wait to feel confident. You act while the season favors action. When abundance flows, you don't assume you've mastered success. You prepare for the next challenge. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. They create drama during every transition. They announce their struggles during winter, broadcast their uncertainty during spring, boast about their success during summer, and fear the ending during fall. This constant emotional broadcasting wastes energy that should be directed toward appropriate seasonal responses. The most powerful people handle challenges without drama. When problems arise, they solve them quietly. When uncertainty appears, they gather information and make decisions privately. When success comes, they acknowledge it internally and keep working. They understand that every announcement of struggle makes the struggle harder. Every broadcast of uncertainty creates more uncertainty, and every public celebration of success invites unwanted attention and potential sabotage. This doesn't mean hiding your experiences or avoiding human connection. It means choosing carefully who gets access to your process versus who only sees your results. It means processing your emotions with trusted advisors rather than turning every setback into a public story. It means building your support systems privately rather than seeking comfort from crowds. When you face difficulties, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What skills am I developing by working through this challenge? When challenges become character-building exercises rather than personal attacks from the universe, your entire relationship with difficulty changes. You start seeking appropriate levels of challenge rather than avoiding all discomfort. The strongest people actively seek resistance training for their character. They volunteer for difficult assignments because they know difficulty builds capacity. They have hard conversations because they know conflict resolution is a skill that improves with practice. They take on responsibilities that stretch them because they know growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. But this only works when you stop the behaviors that sabotage your progress. The biggest enemy of sustainable success isn't external circumstances, it's your own self-defeating patterns. Excuses, procrastination, blame, victim thinking, perfectionism, analysis paralysis. These internal enemies are more dangerous than any external challenge because they operate from inside your own mind. Excuse-making is the most common form of self-sabotage. Every excuse you make weakens your power to change your situation. Every time you explain away your lack of progress, you reinforce the belief that progress isn't under your control. Every time you blame circumstances, other people, or lack of resources, you give away your power to create different results. Successful people have the same challenges as everyone else. They face the same constraints, the same setbacks, the same limitations. The difference is their response. Instead of making excuses, they make adjustments. Instead of explaining why something isn't working, they experiment with what might work better. Instead of focusing on what they can't control, they maximize what they can control. When you notice yourself starting to make an excuse, procrastinate, or blame someone else, catch yourself. Don't judge it, just notice it. Then pause, take 3 breaths, create space between the trigger and your response. Then choose a more empowering response. Choose action over explanation. Choose responsibility over blame. Choose solutions over complaints. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. This is about developing the mental discipline to respond to reality in ways that serve your goals rather than undermine them. This is about building the habit of looking for what you can do instead of focusing on what you can't do. The difference between successful thinking and mediocre thinking shows up in these small moments of choice. Mediocre people announce their intentions and hope external pressure will motivate follow-through. Successful people make commitments privately and let their results speak. Mediocre people start many things but finish few. Successful people start fewer things but finish everything they start. Mediocre people seek comfort and avoid challenge. Successful people seek growth and embrace appropriate discomfort. Mediocre people want fast results with minimal effort. Successful people expect slow progress through sustained effort. Mediocre people quit when things get difficult. Successful people continue until things get better. Mediocre people measure themselves against others and feel either superior or inferior. Successful people measure themselves against their own potential and feel either satisfied or motivated. Mediocre people want recognition for their efforts. Successful people want results from their efforts. Which mindset do you operate from most consistently? When you face a setback, do you look for who to blame or what to learn? When you see someone else succeeding, do you feel threatened or inspired? When you have to do difficult work, do you complain or concentrate? When progress feels slow, do you quit or persist? Your answers reveal everything about whether you're programming yourself for success or mediocrity. The good news is that mindset is a choice you make hundreds of times each day. Every thought, every response, every decision either moves you toward excellence or away from it. But mindset without action is just philosophy. The daily disciplines you practice determine whether your mindset creates real results or just good intentions. Extraordinary results come from ordinary activities done consistently over extended periods of time. Start every day by connecting with your purpose before you connect with other people's agendas. Spend the first hour of your day reading, thinking, planning, or exercising, activities that serve your growth rather than responding to external demands. Create boundaries around your most productive hours and protect them fiercely. End every day by reviewing what you accomplished, what you learned, and what you'll focus on tomorrow. Celebrate private victories even when no one else notices them. Acknowledge progress even when it feels insufficient. Appreciate the compound effect of small daily improvements. Measure your worth by effort rather than outcomes, by growth rather than achievements, by who you're becoming rather than what you're accumulating. Keep a journal of lessons learned, skills developed, and character strengthened. Track leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. Most importantly, practice delayed gratification daily. Choose the important over the urgent. Choose difficulty over comfort. Choose growth over entertainment. Choose substance over style. Choose becoming over seeming. Here's your immediate challenge. For the next 30 days, accomplish something significant in complete silence. Choose a meaningful goal that will require daily effort and genuine growth. Don't tell anyone what you're working on. Don't post about your progress. Don't seek validation or encouragement from others. Just do the work quietly and consistently. This 30-day silence challenge will teach you more about your own character than any external achievement ever could. You'll learn whether your motivation comes from internal drive or external pressure. You'll understand whether you can persist when no one is watching. You'll experience the deep satisfaction that comes from private excellence. At the end of 30 days, you'll have built something real rather than something impressive. You'll have developed actual strength rather than apparent strength. You'll have proven to yourself that you can create results without creating drama, achieve without announcing, succeed without performing. This is how you become the person others don't notice at first but can't ignore eventually. This is how you build power that can't be taken away because it was never given to you by someone else. This is how you create a life of substance rather than just an image of success. The most powerful people in the room are usually the ones you don't notice at first because they're too busy becoming excellent to worry about appearing excellent. They understand that real power operates in silence, builds in private, and reveals itself through results rather than announcements. Stop performing for others and start building for yourself. Stop seeking attention and start creating value. Stop measuring your worth by external metrics and start developing internal strength. The foundation you build in private will determine everything about what you can construct in public. Your life is not a performance for others' approval.
It's a construction project for your own fulfillment. Start building something that will still matter when the applause stops, when the audience leaves, when the spotlight moves on. Start building something that serves your soul rather than your image. The work begins now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, now. Because the most powerful people in the room understand that there is no perfect time to start building excellence. There is only now, and what you choose to do with it.